Hey, what's up? Immortality. I think most of you have heard that word at some point. Frequently in action movies, there's always someone immortal. Wolverine, for example, I think is the most classic case. There's even a movie of his literally saying it in the title. Another good example is Subaru himself in ReZero. He always comes back after he dies. Another example of immortality is your subscription. It stays there forever. Do you believe that? Well, only if YouTube doesn't remove it, right YouTube? But that leads to the question, what is an immortal person by definition? Someone who resurrects after they die, or someone who can live forever, or someone with a healing factor? Well, they're all correct, but they're different types of immortality. Immortality by definition corresponds to the concept of living as a physical or spiritual life form for an infinite or inconceivably long period of time. In both movies and anime, immortality is something well explored. Some characters live forever, some characters have a very high healing factor, some characters are immortal because of another living being. In short, there are several types. And the truth is that there are a total of 11 types of immortality so far. There's no ranking for which immortality is better than the others, but each one has its own peculiarity. And in ReZero, guys, you're gonna see the amount of immortals that exist. Do you think it's just Subaru, Satella, or Reinhard? You're very wrong. And I would say there are a lot of characters in ReZero that are immortal and you had no idea. Type 1, Endless Vitality. Users of this type of immortality have an infinite amount of vital energy, meaning they cannot be killed. They can be injured, but they remain alive even if the person is completely chopped up. In raw terms, it's like the person has infinite HP in a game. In this category, I think only Zarestia, the Great Spirit of Wind, fits. She appeared in the Sloth route and was of great importance to Subaru's family. In her flashback, she was literally split into several parts. But somehow, even with only her head remaining, she killed everyone and then took back the arms and legs that the people had torn off. In this category, the user does not have a healing factor, but it is impossible to kill them. For now, I think she is the only character in this category. Type 2, Longevity. Users in this category can live forever. They do not die of old age or natural causes, but they can be killed by brute force, meaning if someone stabs this person with a knife, they die. There are several characters in this category. Starting with the spirits, most of the great spirits and artificial spirits belong to this category. Beatrice, Puck, Melaquera, Oddglass, and Muspel, the Ryuzu clones, and Echidna are all longevity type immortals. And this type isn't limited to just spirits. Volcanica, the Divine Dragon, also has longevity. The guy is 1,000 years old, lol. Even some Meijus have this immortality. The Great Rabbit, the Whale, the Serpent, and Shola also live a very long time. Of course, besides them, even some members of the Witch Cult are immortal. Sirius and Daphne also possess longevity. And this isn't even the weirdest part, guys. Can you believe that even the victims of the Gluttony Archbishop also become this type of immortal? Rem, who fell into a coma, also became immortal for a certain period. She did not age and just remained in suspended animation. Luana, who is Reinhard's mother, is also immortal in the same way Rem was. Her case, however, is that she has a disease, the Sleeping Beauty disease. She has been sleeping for 17 years, and she has the same appearance as the day she fell asleep. Of course, both can be killed, but if left in that state, they will always live. Type 3, Resurrection. Users in this category can die, but cannot be kept dead and return to life. Users in this category are extremely difficult to kill, and very specific actions are required to succeed. Obviously, Subaru is part of this category. He dies, but comes back to life and returns in time. Reinhard is also part of this category, but his case is different from Subaru's. He can be killed, but he returns from death through the Phoenix Blessing. Pandora, the Witch of Vainglory, also returns from death, but she does this by altering reality. And the most interesting case in this category is definitely Aldebaran. He also manages to return from death, but he does so through some unknown power, where he returns in time within an area he sets. Like Law from One Piece, he marks an area and can return in time if he dies within it. Type 4, Parasitic. Users of this type are immortal by possessing other bodies. As long as they continue to have bodies, they will continue to live. The most classic case is Roswell, the great sorcerer. He possessed his descendants and lived for hundreds of years, just to get a woman. It's tough. Echidna is also the exact same case as Roswell, but in her case, she didn't possess her descendants, but rather clones of the original Ryuzu. She's also immortal in the Dream Castle, but since that is a separate reality, it doesn't count. Betelgeuse also belongs to this category, but unlike Roswell and Echidna, who use a magic to switch bodies, he makes a force contract with the target. Since he's a spirit, he is capable of doing this. Therefore, all three of them are parasitic type immortals. Type 5, Postmortem. Users in this category cannot be killed because they are not part of the mortal plane, have already died and cannot die again, or are in a non-corporeal state, such as a soul or a psychic being. Well, let's go. This type is quite complicated, but there are two people in ReZero who meet these requirements. First up, Subaru again. His body is just his receptacle. It's just what stores his memories until his next death. What carries all of Subaru's memories to another life is his soul. And so far, it's impossible for Subaru's soul to be destroyed. Even the Sword of Life in the Revenge route couldn't do it, and it was built to destroy souls. Pandora is also part of this category. Even after being completely destroyed, with nothing left, she reappears as if nothing happened. She may not be part of the mortal plane through the authority of Vainglory, story, but of course this is still speculative. Type 6. Protection. Users of this type are immortal because they have protection from a certain greater being. Generally, the protectors have manipulation over life and death, deciding that their protected ones simply cannot die, or be kept dead. To kill the protected, you obviously have to get past the protector. There are once again only 2 people in the series who have this type of immortality. First up, Reinhard. No matter what happens, Reinhard cannot be kept dead. He can even die, but not die permanently. Odd Laguna, the entity that regulates blessings and mana, will always help Reinhard. If he dies, he would use the Phoenix Blessing, and if he died again, he would gain another type of Phoenix Blessing from Odd Laguna and would return to life. The other is Subaru again. The guy has already appeared about 3 times in this video. Similar to Reinhard, there is a greater being that protects Subaru, but unlike Reinhard, whose protector is Odd Laguna, in Subaru's case, it's Satella. Subaru can be killed, but not kept dead. No matter what happens, he will manage to resurrect. The only way to bypass Satella's will is for Subaru himself to no longer want to come back. If he feels satisfied with his life, he won't return from death anymore. Type 7. Immunity. Users of this type of immortality are immune to the manipulation of life and death. That is, to kill someone in this category, a very specific power is needed, besides it being a very rare immortality and not easily found. The only being that can meet these requirements is Odd Laguna, the entity that regulates blessings and mana. It is not physical, can only be accessed in the Pleiades Tower, and is apparently impossible to kill. But Baru, you yourself said that Reinhard could destroy Odd Laguna. Yes, it's true, I did say that. But there's a catch. The author confirmed that if Reinhard wanted to destroy Odd Laguna someday, he could. But here's the question. Can he really? Reinhard has not yet demonstrated a power that could destroy something mystical like Odd Laguna. What I imagine from the author's answer is that since Odd Laguna simply loves Reinhard because, well, whenever he asks for a blessing, she gives it, she would allow herself to be destroyed by him if it were his will. Type 8. Eternity. Users in this category have existed since forever and will always exist at all moments. Present, past, future. Generally, users of Type 8 Immortality are also omnipresent. Guys, for now, I haven't been able to find anyone who is eternal in ReZero. Of course, there are very ancient beings in the work. Like the dragon Volcanica, he's over 1,000 years old. Zarestia, who is even older than the dragon. But nothing is eternal. You might be thinking, Baru, what about Odd Laguna? Isn't it an entity? Yes, it is. But it is not confirmed how long it has existed. And it is even speculated that it was created by Flugel. And so, if someone from ReZero were to be placed in this category, only Odd Laguna would really fit, and that's even a stretch. It is omnipresent since it has direct contact with all living beings in the world, but for it to be eternal and to have always existed, that's difficult. Type 9. Linkage. Users of this type are immortal because they are linked to something or someone. As long as the person they are linked to exists, they will live. The only person in ReZero who has this immortality is Regulus. Regulus constantly uses the authority of greed. Thus, his body is always in a state of stop time. Even the food he ate years ago is still being digested. Besides the food not changing in appearance, he doesn't change either. Thanks to his authority, he connects with his wives and uses their bodies as his own body. As long as his wives exist and he continues to use the authority, he will be immortal. Type 10. Absolute. Users with this type of immortality are invincible, possessing a self-sustaining nature, and not depending on anything to remain immortal. Nothing physical or mental can kill them. Their body is indestructible, as is their mind and spirit. There's no doubt, right guys? One of the strongest types of immortality that exists could only belong to Satella. The Witch of Envy is one of the strongest beings, if not the strongest, in the work of ReZero. She was so strong that they had to gather all 4 heroes of the time to seal her, because killing her was impossible. Her body is indestructible, mental attacks didn't work, and neither did soul attacks. And even sealed, she can always get out in her astral form. I don't know, just on Wi-Fi. The author has already said that if Reinhard were to fight her, she still wouldn't die, because the fight would be a draw. Type 11. Regeneration. Users of this type of immortality are immortal because they have a very high healing factor, returning from death after having died, or simply not dying, because there isn't time. The body heals itself. There are levels of regeneration, but in short though, Type 11 covers all levels of regeneration. And this list is long, guys. There are many immortal people in ReZero based on healing factor. Starting with the most obvious, Minerva. She has the best healing factor in the work. Any wound on her, or on someone else, is instantly healed by her. But of course, she is immortal until she manages to hit herself. If she loses her head and has no way to strike herself in the process, she dies. Continuing with the witch cult members, Capella is also a regeneration type immortal. She can recover from any injury in a few seconds, and unlike Minerva, she can remain conscious if she loses her head. Then she just regenerates it back. Puck and Melaquera are also in this category. Besides being of the longevity type, they also have an excellent healing factor. Just watching Frozen Bonds shows how they survive fatal damage, and shortly after, they are fighting again. Speaking of the snow and Frozen Bonds, the Great Rabbit is also in this category, besides also being of the longevity type. Since it has a collective mind, losing several rabbits would be like losing several limbs, and since it creates more copies of itself over time, it's like a healing factor. Elsa is another person who also has an enviable healing factor. She has died several times in the series, but since she can recover with the curse of the doll, she always manages to come back despite having a limit to how many times she can withstand dying before her mind goes to hell. And finally, the most unknown person in the series who is also immortal is Felix. Yes, Ferris. He was born with an extraordinary talent for water magic, and just having that supernatural connection to water magic makes it so that he doesn't die easily. Actually, killing Felix is very difficult. The only way to kill him is by tearing off his head. Non-instantaneous deaths are impossible to kill Felix with. If I forgot anyone, leave it in the comments. A special thanks to Viral from the Viral Quest channel. I got this idea watching one of his videos, so man, if you see this video, I'm a big fan. And what did you think of these immortal people? Let me know in the comments. And even if everything goes wrong, you can always start from zero again.